Good evening, guys. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Everything's good? Good, good. Today is a kind of a quick class. We need to review what we are going to be covering during the first midterm, that is next week. And hopefully you have been able to answer the questions, And the idea here, guys, is that you have a holistic understanding of how global markets work, okay? In terms of exchange rates are the crucial variable, okay? Remember that if you want to do international global markets, exchange rate is crucial because it affects exports, it affects imports, it affects inflation, it affects, it affects also the interest rates of local countries, okay? And all of them are interconnected. So it is not an easy question to say, or an easy answer for a question. Oh, guys, I want to increase my exports. Oh, well, very simple, depreciate your currency. Because you know what, depreciation helps exports. However, you need to be very careful in the sense of exports also sometimes uses imported goods. So if you depreciate your currency, the cost of our corporations are going to also increase. You see that? You need to put all this in perspective. Now, if you have a wide open economy, so this implies that the economy is bringing a lot of imported products to your country, so also this can create inflation. Do you agree? Because the cost of goods, of imported goods, is going to go up, so the inflation can go up. Okay? So all this in perspective, guys. Now, when you go, if you're going to start thinking about investments in Europe or USA, Canada, you don't really focus a lot on a concept that is crucial, that is dollarization. Okay, what is dollarization, guys? Is that simply people uses dollars or other hard currency like euros as a benchmark for the transaction. So they use it indifferently. So you use your local soles, local currency, with your dollars indifferently. You can buy products, you can buy services with dollars, and also you can have loans in dollars, and you can deposit in dollars, etc. Right? So being in a dollarized economy is very traditional in emerging markets. If you think about Africa, if you think about Latin America, Asia, dollarization is something you need to keep always in your mind, and you need to think how this affects if I do something, right? Or if the government does something. Now, the other thing that you need to be very careful, guys, and is always important, is when you do investments, you need to think not only on the return on the investment. So remember this example I told you, hey guys, we have a project in Peru that produces 10%. This 10% can disappear if there is an appreciation or depreciation, right? But also it's interesting that if you can say when you get into the market, this is also important because you want depreciation when you get in the market, remember? Because you receive more local currency per your dollar. So you want depreciation at the beginning and you want appreciation at the end because you need less local currency to get dollars to move the money outside, right? So it is a strategy, guys. And the next part of the class is hedging. So it's basically how to minimize the risk of this type of volatilities, okay? At this point, we simply need to understand how do we handle global financial markets, okay, and how they work, and etc. In terms of the math, guys, that we do is very simple math. You have seen, compounding transformations, seeing the impact of exchange rates, these swaps, money swaps. I think there is a question in here. And a little more complex stuff that includes, event studies or scenario testing. When you have this, I have 3 potential exchange rates with probabilities. I should be able to create a confidence interval in terms of exchange rates, but I also should be able to create confidence intervals in terms of profitability. What we did last class, right? If you are able to do all this stuff, really, so you should be able to have a very good quiz, and of course you have learned a lot in this first part of the class. Got it? Make sense? Okay, so let's go, and this is more your work than mine. So I will just be guiding you. So let me show you my screen. Where's my screen? Yeah, let me show you. What we have is 1 second, guys. Here we go. So let's start, and then let's open discussion, okay? So if you want to talk, you talk, please, but someone needs to talk. Okay, now we have this situation. We have a country okay, that has a large commercial deficit. So this implies that we have more imports than exports. Got it? This is a commercial deficit. And the people always say, you know what, we need to increase our exports to minimize our deficit. Okay, so that's the question. And monetary policy, guys, is basically interest rates. You agree? So the Fed rates, for example. So what do you do in order to appreciate or depreciate your currency or to bring more money into your country, is basically moving the interest rates. So imagine that you're in Peru and then you want to convince people to come to your country. Right? So what you do is you simply increase your interest rates. You see? So investors from outside are going to say, oh, you know what? Peru has a beautiful interest rate, so let's move our money there. Now, the impact that this has in the economy is very interesting because you are moving dollars into the economy. You agree? So there is going to be a lot of supply of dollars. What happens when you have a lot of supply of dollars? What happens with the price of dollars in terms of local currency? Decreases. You agree? Makes sense? So decreases implies that you need less local currency per dollar. So this implies appreciation. Makes sense to you? Okay, so we need to start thinking about all this stuff here. So tell me, guys, what do you think we can do, okay, in order to reduce the commercial deficit? So let me open my...
Hello, Dr. Gifo.
Yes, Daniel, please go ahead.
Wait, did you say a while ago that the answer was increase interest rates? Or are you just, because like my answer was like increase money supply.
Yeah, well, can be. Let's take a look. So you have large commercial deficit.
Yeah. So
Okay,
like,
so this is a condition. 1 second. Let me read this
go
one
ahead.
and then we do. So M larger than X. You agree?
Yeah.
So you want to use monetary policy. Yeah, you're using another tool of monetary policy. That's correct.
Yeah, I was thinking you increase money supply, it would
Okay.
depreciate
Okay,
the local currency.
Yeah, so increase money supply. So let's think about that. Okay, so we are talking about, you know what? Let's talk about Peru. I like this country. I don't know why. Okay, so I like, monetary, increase monetary, sorry, you said what?
Increase money supply.
Money supply.
So maybe.
So this implies more local currencies. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the impact of that? The supply of soles, for example, increases. So what happens with the supply of currency increase?
It's going to depreciate the value of the currency.
Yeah, if you think exactly, if you think in terms of dollars, so this implies that price of soles, local currency, is going to decrease. But price respect to what? To dollars. So this implies that the price of dollars are going to increase. Agree with that?
Right.
Guys? So basically what we are saying is we are depreciating.
Yeah, so that should make the local countries' exports more attractive from a monetary perspective.
Yeah,
and that will decrease imports as well.
Yeah, depreciation is good for exports. And in theory, imports should decrease. Do you agree? So in theory, guys, what we are doing is we're trying to balance. So commercial deficit, let's call it, should decrease. Do you agree, guys? Okay. So unexpected consequences with that. Okay, always think. Always think. Is it an open economy? So if yes, of course it is, no, because I have the commercial deficit, so I'm open to economy. And what is interesting, guys, is that if yes, the next question is how much? So open can be, you know what, that I have 1% imports, very small imports. In that case, we don't care. You agree? In that case, you push hard to your exporters. But what happens, as we can argue from this case, apparently we import more than export. Got it? If it's a small, I will just say gross numbers. And if it's large. So what happens if it's large, guys? Always remember something that is called the pass-through effect. Remember what is that, the pass-through effect? Is that if we depreciate, if depreciation increases, what happens with the prices of imports? Imported goods, what happens? These go up.
Yeah.
Do you agree? Because now I need more local currency per dollar, and normally the imports are in dollars, so I'm paying more. Got it? And as soon as this is a large portion of your basket of consumption market, what happens? What can this create? Potentially, guys, we can have inflation. Right? And remember, inflation, guys, is something that I'm not talking about 2%, 3%. I'm talking about 15%, 20%. Right? What is the impact of inflation? Always remember, the inflation, guys, is bad. It's terrible because normally affects income. Do you agree? It doesn't affect the wealth. The wealth. So if you're rich, you can survive. But if you are, low income, or in the borderline between poverty or not, or even middle class, this can change you. This can affect you. Make sense? So that's why inflation is always very careful. If inflation is not going, if salaries are not indexed to inflation, so we need to be very careful with inflation. Of course, the good side of inflation also, guys, is what? Why USA, for example, we are pushing hard for having at least 2% inflation, and we are 1.7 now. So it's trying to pick up, and the people believe it's going to pick up soon. But what is also the good news about inflation in the American scenario, at least in this period of time? That inflation also is a reflection of people buying more products. So demand going up, so prices going up. So inflation at the very beginning, also you have a different interpretations. You know what? It is good to have, and it's called the healthy inflation. Because it means that the people is buying, the economy is moving, the producers are producing. So this is a good sense of inflation. The problem is that when the inflation really starts going from very small numbers and starts picking up, that's very dangerous. Right? And always when you want to think about that, think about Keynes, guys. I think the Keynesian model is really, really interesting and very simple to understand. Remember when I discuss about inflation, I talk to you, okay, so this is my economy, and these are my prices. And I told you, you know what? This is the maximum capacity of your economy. Normally the supply, guys, is kind of flat, not necessarily exactly flat, and my demand is like that. Right? However, when you arrive to a point of maximum production, maximum capacity, what is going to happen? Your supply cannot grow more. Your supply is going to be like that. So the danger is that when the economy starts moving up, there is a point in which by moving the demand, prices start increasing. So this is the situation in which you are really worried. Careful. However, if you are around here, and as I believe USA is now, because we are very low in consumption is going to pick up in the next month. So hopefully restaurants are going to be open, tourism is going to be open, airlines are going to start opening more, etc. Well, hopefully, guys, I'm not sure now. Have you read what's going on? We're in a fourth wave already in USA. So that's a pain. We need to get rid of this coronavirus, and I think everyone needs to collaborate with that. But in any case, if we basically master this coronavirus and everyone goes into the business, so basically what we expect is that the people is going to start spending, okay? And spending is good because it moves the economy. So restaurants start opening, they start hiring people. Tourism, airlines, airlines, it's a fantastic industry here in USA that is completely almost collapsed, but thanks God that the government helped them. Otherwise, it simply disappeared. This industry. It was amazing. You see, and okay, so we have an unexpected consequences, unintended consequences. Is basically be careful that you can be creating inflation. Okay. Now the other thing that goes here, and inflation also, guys, this price of imported goods affects two groups of people. Okay, consumers, final consumers. You agree? So basically, if I buy, food from USA or food from China, and my exchange rate is depreciating, so my price for the final consumer is increasing. So this is inflation for the consumers. However, guys, there is another effect of imports is on the corporations, and sometimes also the exporters. Because what happens now, guys, the economists tend to specialize on something. Do you agree? I'm good in doing this stuff. I will focus doing this stuff. So what I will do is I will bring components from China, East Asia, Latin America, and I bring it into my country, and then assemble that. I put something more there and add value, and then I sell this, right? And then I export that. So corporations also, if they import a lot and they have import products in their structure, so depreciation is also bad. You see, it's good because the prices help them, but also the costs increase. So you need to be very careful with the balance. You can be damaging also your exporting sector. Make sense? So this can also be damaged. What else? Someone can mention something. Okay. So let's do perhaps a second idea. What happens and I think this one relates to the next question, but I will try to. Is the economy dollarized? Okay, so normally dollarized, guys, is a ratio of deposits. When I say dollars, it can be any other currency that is not local currency, divided by total deposits is larger than 0.2. Peru is definitely a dollarized economy. Okay, Turkey is a dollarized economy. Yugoslavia is a dollarized economy, or well, ex-Yugoslavia now. Okay. So
sorry,
what is?
Sorry. Just to get this clear, so it's more than
20%. So if you have deposits in a country in dollars, for example, respect to the total deposits is larger than 0.2, larger than 20%. So basically 20% of the deposits or more is in dollars.
Oh, okay.
Now, when I say please, when I mention dollars, it's not necessarily the dollar. Okay, it can be euros or can be the Swiss franc or any hard currency that the people use as a deposit of value. Now, what happens in this case, guys? If you have a dollarized economy, what happens when you depreciate your economy with your currency?
Your debt is effectively becoming more expensive.
Yes. So it depends. That's what we need to always argue. It depends. So if you have deposits are in dollar, and loans are in local currency. Okay, so this is my first condition. So what happens here? This guy here, if there is a depreciation, they basically need more local currency per dollar. You agree, guys? So this implies that the cost of capital or the cost of the loan has increased. Agree with me or not? Yes? And if they have the salaries in local currency, so W salaries, wages, if the salaries are in local currency, what this can create, guys, is simply defaults. Now, if the defaults are not only one or two, guys, but massive defaults, this can impose a systemic risk. So all the banking sector can collapse. Makes sense? So that's why, guys, if you want to invest in a country that has high dollarization, you know that central banks have an incentive to depreciate, to appreciate. Appreciate, right? Because they know that if they depreciate, and they know that they have this situation here, they can have a sorry, guys, the loans are in dollars. So all this analysis is in dollars. The loans are also in dollars. Okay, depreciation increases this one here, cost of the loan goes up. If this one, default, systemic risk. Yeah, if the loans are in dollars, that's the issue. Because if I have a loan in dollar, I make my money in my country in soles, I need to change soles per dollar. Okay, and if there is a depreciation, I need more soles per dollar. And if my salary is constant, I can simply start defaulting. I cannot pay. No, it's not that I am a bad payer, that's simply that my cost of loan has increased significantly because of depreciation. Right? So that's why if the governments understand this part here, if they say, oh man, I have a very significant part of my economy has loans in dollars, so I know that if there is a depreciation, even I need to do depreciation to reduce my commercial deficit, I'm not going to do that because I can create a systemic risk in my system. Make sense to you, everyone? Now, example of this, Turkey 2001. Okay, Turkey up to Turkey 2005, I think. Shame on me because I did the paper on that. I think it's 2001, 2005. What Turkey did, guys, is they prohibited, the government by law prohibited to individuals have loans in dollars. It was prohibited. Corporations, yes, but not individuals. Okay, why not individuals and why corporations? Well, corporations are supposed to be more aware of what can happen. Individuals are the ones that can collapse the system. Because you know what? If you start collapsing individuals start being defaulting. So social unrest is going to happen. Social unrest have an economic impact. Economic impact has a political impact, and politicians don't want to be in troubles. Right? So they try to avoid these type of things. So what they did in Turkey, and something that makes sense, okay, so we argue again if deposits are in dollars, but now the loans are in local currency. Okay, so now we go into the same place. Now, guys, depreciation here. What is the impact of depreciation if you have a loan in local currency? If depreciation goes, nothing. I don't care. You agree? Because my loan is in local currency. I have no issue. Do you understand? So my cost of capital is the same. Cost of loan is basically the same. My salaries can be the same. But as soon as my loan is correct, I'm okay. Nothing happens. However, guys, now who has a problem? Now, if there is a depreciation, guys, remember the deposits are, are passives, are not are liabilities for banks. Right? So what these guys are doing, the banks are doing in order to provide loans in local currency, they use the deposits of the people. They go to the markets, they exchange to local currencies, and they lend the money to these individuals. Got it? So what happens, guys, is that individuals are going to continue paying, imagine, $3 per 3 soles per dollar at the very beginning, and then suddenly now it's 5 soles per dollar. Okay, so there's a very significant increase on the price of dollar. So let's assume a T0 is 3 soles per dollar. Then a T1, I'm exaggerating, of course, is $5 soles per dollar. Got it? If I lend 3 soles, I will still receive 3 soles. Do you agree? Plus interest, of course. So banks are not going to be able to buy back the dollars that they need for deposits. Make sense to you? So basically, if depreciation, banks are not able to buy back dollars needed to replace deposits. Do you agree with me, guys? Because they need 5 now. They need 5 soles per dollar. And what they are receiving from the loans is only 3 soles per dollar. So they have a mismatch of two soles here. Got it? So basically, they're not going to have enough local currency to buy the needed dollars to replace the deposit used. Make sense, guys? So what can happen here? Well, the people is going to realize that, come on, these guys are not able to have the dollars that they need for my money. They are not able to recover my money. So basically, this can happen. This can create bank runs. Have you heard about that?
Yeah. 07 crisis, right?
Yes. So bank runs implies simply that, you know what, I know that there are not enough dollars in the deposit, so I go immediately and I ask my money. And you are not the only guy, everyone wants to do that. And what happens, the banks are not completely liquid, so they have positions. So normally the central bank needs to help them. So banks are liquid. Banks are illiquid. Normally central banks help them. But the help is not infinite. Okay, so if this problem is systemic, then we can collapse the system. Okay, so in this case, guys, default rate, let's call it no default rate, indirectly. Okay, no default rate, because it's soles, they make the salaries are in soles, so they have no default rate. So this is perfect. However, indirectly, guys, if the economy simply collapses, so the banking system collapses, basically all the system collapses. You agree? So the potential of having a major impact on the economy as in general, so it is high. So that's why this situation is also very dangerous.
So is one of those preferable to the other, or they're both just bad situations to be in?
Do you know what? That's why governments, that the issue is that I've done a lot of consulting in my country about exchange rates. The issue is not that it is not an easy question. Do you know what? I want to help my producers. I want to reduce my deficit. And one way of reducing the deficit, mathematically, guys, is of course, you know what, depreciate your currency. Agree? Be careful with that. Be extremely careful with what you're thinking, because it can damage even the exporters. If exporters need imported goods, you can be damaging these guys. Or if your economy is fully open, you're going to benefit a small group of corporations that export, and you're going to damage the large economy. Because what happens, guys, when final consumers start suffering is inflation. So these guys, social unrest again, they consume less. They need to consume, if they want to consume imported goods, they distribute more of their income, disposable income, in import products, so less stays in local products. And so it creates an issue, because if local demand decreases, so local production is going to decrease, and so you make a mess. Make sense? So this is the side, in the real side. Now, in the financial side, if you have a dollarized economy, you need to be extremely careful, because you can be damaging the system, and you can create really. Remember, guys, what is interesting about the real market versus financial markets is that the speed of transmission. Do you agree? So normally inflation, okay, builds up. It can take a couple of years, 3, 5, 4 years, and then you realize that you're in trouble. Financial markets, when you have a run, this can destroy your economy in a couple of months. It's very quickly, right? Because the people panic, and the people want the money, and if they want the money, they go to the bank, and the bank has no money. So I start revolting, and I want my money. The governments need to intervene. The governments have a limit on that. So what the governments try to do is try to say, okay, guys, I give you 10% of what you have. I wait 5 years, and I will return the remaining part. But the economy is already in panic mode. Makes sense to everyone? And this is something, guys, in USA, you have not seen this a lot. In Latin America, or in Philippines and Africa, we have seen this like a lot of times. Okay, and we always make the same mistakes. Make sense? So basically, guys, what is the best recommendation about, if you want to reduce your commercial deficit? Really, you need to find something that you can do better than the other guys. Okay, comparative advantages. Basically, you need, if you want to sell something outside your economy, so you produce something that is really good. And one example of that, guys, and it is still under the radar, is what Colombia is doing. Colombia is one of the countries in Latin America that is diversifying its production matrix. They are doing a lot on technology. So the guys from Silicon Valley are investing a lot in Colombia. It's much cheap, very close to USA. The environment, the political environment, the social economic environment is fantastic. It's very nice, very calm. It's not like 20 years ago in Colombia it was terrible, but now it's extremely safe. Easy trip, because the people who want to travel is 4 hours from Silicon Valley, or even 3 hours and a half, something like that. Very easy to arrive. So these guys are building that. So they're saying, you know what? I forget about the exchange rates. Just focus on what I can produce that the people like from my country. Okay, competitive advantages. That's it.
Would part of that be like the government subsidizing certain industries?
Of course. Of course, and that's the tricky part. No, there are two extremes on that, guys. One is what we call substitution of exports, industrialization, substituting exports. Substituting imports. So this implies the following. So the logic is very simple, guys. Imagine that you are, your country, and then you realize that you have a lot of things coming on from China, from Peru, from Latin America to USA. Okay. Well, USA is not a good example because USA is already a developed country. So imagine Peru wants to develop, okay? One way of developing is the following. It was very used in the 70s, 80s, and almost happened in USA during the last 4 years. The idea is very simple. They say, you know what? I'm importing too much, okay? As soon as I'm importing too much, the corporations are not in my country, okay? Because I'm just buying from outside. So the ones that are benefiting from me are the guys that are producing outside your country. Agree with me? So what I should do is I should help my local corporations, local industry to grow. How can I do that? I simply stop imports. Right? I say, you know what? No more imports to my country. Everything's going to be produced in my country. Make sense? So what happens? So basically, if you have Volkswagens, I remember have you seen the Beetles, the old Beetles? Do you remember the old Beetles, the Volkswagen Beetle, the round car? Okay, when Peru was doing this experiment, not only Peru, but also Colombia, Venezuela, Argentina, Brazil, everyone was in that mode. One Volkswagen, guys, costed more or less the same as one apartment. Why? Well, Volkswagen created its own corporation, its own factories in Peru. So we built in Peru. But you know what? As soon as there was no competition there, so they can charge whatever they want. And the prices were seriously that you can buy one beetle, that is the smallest car you can imagine, versus one apartment. You see? So it creates this type of mechanisms that, come on, you're not efficient anymore. You're not competing. Why are you going to do something more efficiently if there is no one that's competing with you? You can increase the price as you want. There's no competition. You agree? So this is the extreme. Okay. So, and this didn't work. Seriously, didn't work. Now, this can work in one country at this point. You know which country is that?
The US.
Which country is that? US, yes. US is yes, definitely. The US can happen. But the problem with US is if the US wants to do that, Europe is going to start closing to US, so it's going to be a mess. The one that really can do that, and is actually doing also very slowly, is China. China, guys, before 5 years ago, they have this idea of just exporting, but then they realized that they have a huge asset inside their country. What is this asset? Why?
Labor.
Yeah, labor, yes, but then what else?
Their population.
People, exactly. People is market, guys. You see, so if the people start working, they start making money, they start demanding products, you agree? And where are these products going to be produced? Well, in your own country. You see, and so that's why China has changed this idea of, of course, China competes incredibly well in the worldwide, but in China, so they are developing their markets incredibly. Amazing. So, and they have the market. It's not like Peru. We are 20, perhaps 30 million people. And if you consider the people that is economically active, so we have what, 15 million people. 15 million people is nothing for creating a market. But if you're talking about more or less 500 million people that can have money and can be producing, then you have a market, okay? So they're doing that, and they're doing this really well. What else? Okay, guys, what else? Questions? This is beautiful discussion, and that's what I want from you. Is basically put all this part in perspective and think, because the people don't think about that. And politicians, really, they believe, oh, let's depreciate. Okay, careful, guys. With a very simple analysis, you can put these guys in place. Be careful with the holes that you can create. Be careful with the problems that you can have. Got it? Okay, so what else? Now, what is the third point? Okay. What is the European economy? What is the economy dollarized? What else we can be asking? Foreign direct investments versus foreign portfolio investments. Okay, this P stands for portfolio, and this is foreign direct investments, and this is foreign portfolio investments. This one here, guys, is long term. And this one here is short term. Agree? So long term implies that, for example, they go into your country and they invest in mining. And you know that mining, the processes can last 30 years. So this money comes and it stays there for a long, long period. Right? So this is the FDI. Now, the FPI is this capital, guys, when you do international investments, you divide the world. You have, developed, you have developing, and then you have frontier. Okay, gross. So developed is, Canada, USA, Europe, and some other countries around Asia. Developing, basically, Latin America, most of Latin America, excluding Ecuador, I think. Ecuador is a frontier. And frontier, there are a lot of Asian, African countries, and some Caribbean countries. Make sense? So, and what is the particular characteristics of these ones here? They are looking for alpha. You agree? What is the famous alpha? So alpha means I want extra returns. Now, if I invest in Peru, it's because I believe that Peru is going to produce more than USA or more than Europe. Because these markets are more volatile, so the risk is higher. So you expect higher returns. Make sense to you? What is the characteristic of these funds, guys? That they get in, and when they see some issues, they get out immediately. Got it? So now what happens if there, let's assume no capital controls. What we understand by capital control? So capital control simply tells, if you are investing in my country, if you are an FPI, you cannot move your money in less than a year. So this is one way of forcing these short-term guys to stay in your country for at least 1 year. Got it? So if there is no capital control, implies that investors can get in and get out as they want, when they want, the amount they want, etc. So do you remember, guys, what happens? Let's assume that we have an expectation, let's assume the expectation of depreciation increases. So what happens? Guys, remember what happens with an investment in a country that is already in a country? What happens? Depreciation is good or bad?
Sorry, for whom?
For someone that is already in the market. So it's an investor already in the market. And he's started smelling, you know what, there is going to be a depreciation process here. So what happens?
It's bad for him.
It's bad. So this
For her.
is bad for investors already in country, in local country. Do you agree? This is bad. So what do you do when you feel something bad? And remember, this is an expectation. These guys are doing analysis all the time, and they believe, oh, you know what, the balance of the trade balance is too big now. So the governments are going to try to do something. So expectations of depreciation is going to increase significantly. Do you agree? So what do?
They withdraw.
Yeah, get out as soon as you can. Do you agree? So, but what happens when you mean get out as soon as possible? Your investments that are in soles, you need to transfer them, translate them into dollars. Do you agree? So this implies that the demand of dollars increase. Agree with me, guys? What happens when the demand of dollars increase? The price of dollars increase. And so what is the meaning of that? Depreciation. And what is interesting, guys, is that sometimes the expectation of depreciation is just an expectation. But because the people believe on this expectation, they can create actual depreciation. You see? So they created depreciation by themselves. By their action, they created depreciation. Even though the government just was planning or thinking or discussing, investors can create depreciation. And of course, if they create depreciation, you can bring all the analysis that we have done before. Got it? So that's why governments try to do something, you know, try to put control of capitals here. They try to do this, capital controls. Just to avoid this type of thing. Okay? So capital controls, or they also do something more. What is that? Or both, no? And or. What do you do to convince these investors to stay in your place?
Increase interest rates.
Exactly. You use the second monetary policy. So here you use monetary policy again. That is the second tool. Increase the Fed rates, increase your interest rates. Okay, now the issue, guys, is that if you increase interest rates, you need to do a very significant increase in interest rates just to convince these guys to stay in your country. Sometimes this increase is significant. Do you agree? Yeah, because if you increase, imagine 0.25%, come on, I move my money. If you increase 1%, okay, I think about that. If you increase 1.5%, okay, I stay. Now, what is the issue with this one here? If there is a significant price increase on interest rates. So remember, guys, these interest rates are the benchmark for what? It's like USA. What happens, for example, with the mortgage rates now that interest rates are very, very, very close to zero? what happens with the mortgage rates?
Also zero. So
Yeah,
cost of
no,
capital
yeah,
increases.
not zero, but they are very, very small. Do you agree?
Yeah.
2.5, 2.7 for a 30-year fixed, very small, guys. It's very, you see, that's the impact. Now, what happens if the government starts increasing the Fed rates? Immediately, the mortgage rates are going to increase, right? But the mortgage rates is one example, guys. What happens normally that the benchmarks of the country is the Fed rates, or the, I mean, when I say Fed, it's not only the USA Fed, I'm using the central bank's rate, right? If this increases, what normally is going to happen, we'll do this here, the cost of money of borrowing, what happens with that? Increases. You agree? What happens with the cost of money increases? Well, in terms, if you have already debt, interest on debt increases, so you're worse off, and also investments. What happened with investments? Well, you know what? If the interest rate is higher, now my internal rate of return is not enough to cover the payments, so I can reduce as well. Etc. Make sense?
Professor, in the in the midterms, is it going to be similar like this? It's like an essay.
Yeah, we'll try to minimize the essay part, yes, but it will be more of a, I want you to, yes, but I will give you, I don't want the book to be written in the exam, it's just a small, you think, and just write that the part that you believe is more important, okay?
Okay.
Yes, but this is this, no? And but then you can argue, someone can argue, you know what, but this country has no issues with dollarization. So what is the impact if there is no dollarization? So the governments are more free to depreciate. Do you agree with that? If the country is less open, they are more free to depreciate, because this implies that basically the imports, the pass-through effect is going to be lower, so inflation probabilities are going to be lower, etc. You see? So you put yourself in a situation. Okay? Focus on what is your scenario. And in this scenario, you develop your analysis. That's the way you should think always, guys. This thinking, guys, is worth gold for a corporation that does international trade. It is extremely useful for them to understand thinking this part here. If I go to Peru, I know the depreciation probability is lower than if I go, for example, to another country where there is no dollarization. Why? Because countries with heavily dollarization economies, they have less incentives to allow depreciation. You agree? All this part here is what you need to be moving. Make sense to everyone? What else? What else can you say? What else will come to your mind? What else have you answered in your questions? Have you answered in your answers? Someone? I covered all ideas. No other ideas, guys? No? Okay. So let's move to the second one, guys. Yeah, well, I already explained this, right? The depreciation part here is, sorry, the dollarization part here is already explained in this answer here, in this part here. It's already here. So I answered question number 1 and 2, basically. Any questions, ideas that you can add to this part here? This, I'm pretty sure there is a lot of things that we are missing here, but at least this is the core way of thinking, okay?
Professor, can we go back to what you said a while ago with if you increase interest rates, that would attract
Oh, this one?
foreign investors?
Yes. Yes.
So that that is the other option, right, in the monetary policy rather than
Yeah,
decrease,
exactly.
rather than
Yes. Rather than increasing monetary money supply, they can increase interest rates. So what they want to increase interest rates because implies that more foreign people are going to come to your economy, right? So that's why what you're trying to do is you're trying to avoid depreciation, this type of depreciation. Okay, come on. This type of depreciation.
but we're not addressing the goal of decreasing the commercial deficit.
Yes. You know what? I developed all these ideas based on all this way of thinking. I'm in a dollarized economy. I'm an open economy. I'm in a dollarized economy. So if you start with closed economy, no, well, not closed, open economy, but very small. Okay, so I don't care about inflation. This is not a dollarized economy, so I have incentives to depreciate. Now, perhaps for the governments in this scenario, allowing capitals to outflow to get out of the country is a good idea because they are going to depreciate naturally the local currency, and this depreciation is going to help exporters, and it's not going to damage imports, or the imports are very low, so there is low probability of inflation. You see that?
Yeah.
So what I'm telling to you is that you need to put yourselves in a framework. Okay, what is your economy? How your economy is there? I will try to guide your answer. So if I tell you, you are in a dollarized economy, okay, I want you to develop your idea in a dollarized economy. But if the question is open, you are the one that need to determine the framework. All right? Make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, guys, the third question is an easy one, right? We have done that. We have done a couple of examples. Where is my mouse? Where's my, here we go. So this one here is easy, right, guys? We have done a couple of examples here. Any questions here?
I'm still seeing the word.
Oh, sorry. I need to change this into my, here we go. So what about the third question? Do you understand this one? We have done a couple of examples, as I mentioned to you guys. So you simply move and analyze what if I keep everything in euros? What if I change here in dollars? And then I use this exchange rate, and then I decide. Of course, as soon as I'm paying a loan, I select the cheaper one. Correct? The cheapest one. Now, what is the equilibrium? Is the one that basically, what is the exchange rate that is in equilibrium? It's basically the exchange rate that makes you indifferent between keeping your debt in euros and changing or swapping the debt into dollars. Correct? That's it. It's very simple. This one is very simple. We have done this. Now, this one here is that if you're an American investor and have a project in country C, okay, that will provide you with a 10% return at the end of the year. No project risk. The current FX is $3 soles per dollar, local currency per dollar. What happens in your investment returns after considering FX effects if this one increases by 3.2? Remember, what you do in this case is, okay, I have $100, I exchange this to local currency equals 300 soles. This is a 10%, implies 330 in 1 year, soles in 1 year. Then I need to go back into dollars, you agree? So that's why depreciations are not good, because you need more local currency per dollar. So in this case, we have a depreciation. So of course, what is going to happen is that it's going to decrease your 10%. And sometimes it's going to put your 10% in zero, or sometimes even in loss. Right? So this is the type of analysis like a U shape. You start, you change, you move, you change back, and then you analyze. Okay, this is this type of question. Now, I tell you, if there is a depreciation, and if there is an appreciation, guys, you are winners, you agree? Because you don't only create the return of the project, but you create the return created by the exchange rate. Make sense? So that's why I'm telling to you guys that this is beautiful when you do international investments. There's people that just are tracking these exchange rates, and small differences. If you're considered a significant amount of money, small differences on exchange rate can make a couple of additional millions that you were not counting on them. or it can disappear also additional couple of minutes. So that's the issue. So that's why timing is very precise in this type of investments. Okay, the break even you find the same. So what is the exchange rate that makes me equal zero? So I don't make money, I don't lose money. Okay, this is this one here. Now this one here, do you remember this one here? We did one example last class. So you need to find first of all the two metrics. Okay, you need to find the expected return, and you need to find the volatility. How do you find the expected return? You simply multiply this times this, this times this, this times this, and then that's your expected return, correct? How do you find the volatility? Simply the square root of this number minus the mean square times this number. Do you remember that or not, guys? Otherwise, let's do this. Let's do this very quickly. This is D. Let me do this here. So we have the following. So I have some notes here. So we have, this is for 4D. Okay, so I have exchange one, so this is a period one, expectation one, a period one, expectation two, at period one, expectation three. This is equal to 3.05, 2.9, 300, and the probability equals 50%, 30%, and 20%. Right? In these scenarios, the first thing you need to remember is how do I compute what is my expected exchange rate? Okay, my expected exchange rate, you help me, guys, is going to be 3.05 times 0.5 plus 2.9 times 0.3 plus 3 times 0.2. Can you help me with this?
2.995.
We have done this before? No. I don't know. Perhaps
We
yes.
did.
Yeah.
We did.
Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
let's redo that, okay? But just you to remember. Now, what is the variance? The standard deviation of E is going to be simply the square root of what? Simply, you use every single number minus this square. So it's going to be 305 minus 2.995 square times 0.5 plus 2.9 minus 2.995 square that multiplies 0.3 plus 3 minus 2.995 square that multiplies 0.2. So what do we get here?
0.065.
0.065. With these two numbers, guys, then we are done. Okay. So what we assume is what is expected. Okay. Assume the FX rate normally distributed. Yeah. Now let's assume the exchange rates are normally distributed. Okay. So this is the main assumption. Find for a confidence level of 95%. What is the confidence interval for the exchange rate? Do you agree? So remember, guys, I will say the exchange rate, I will call this big E, is going to belong to a given interval. So it's going to be the expected return, the expected exchange rate minus Z, my variance, and that's it. Correct? I don't use the standard error because I don't have N, and I use this Z because I have normality. I don't use the T. And also I cannot use the T, guys, because remember the T distribution requires the degrees of freedom. And the degrees of freedom depend on the number of observations. So we don't have that data. So basically here, what we can argue is that my expectation is 2.995 minus the C, where's the critical value? I want this to be 95%. So this is going to be alpha over 2 is 0.025. And this alpha over 2 is 0.025. What is this value here, guys? The critical value. I show you how to do this in Excel, right?
I got 1.96.
Yes, 1.96 minus 1.96. So basically here is plus, no, it's not minus, it's plus minus. Plus minus 1.96 that multiplies 0.065. So finally you arrive to a conclusion that this is going to be between what and what? What values here?
2.87 and 3.12.
Basically, this is the one.
I'm sorry. I think that's the confidence interval for 90% confidence level.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes, this is 90%. So let's change it. The easy one. Let's do this. Okay. Do you agree, guys? The 95 is 1.645. So if it's 95, it's going to be these critical values. It's going to be 1.645. That's right. Wait a second.
No, Professor.
No. We are right. We're okay.
No, like what I meant was the answer for the confidence interval is when we use.
Oh, got it. Yeah. I was getting. Yes, so these numbers are not correct. That's what you mean.
Yeah, what I meant was that that's the answer for 90% confidence.
Okay, so where are the
level.
values here? What are the values here?
I think 2.83.
Okay, and
3.08.
And 3.08.
Maybe someone can confirm.
Yeah, someone can confirm, guys. Just multiply, just do this operation here. Someone can confirm?
Sorry, the 1.96, this is for 95%.
Yes, because the 90%, so, let's try to do this just to verify this stuff. Let me, remember, okay, we'll say 0.95. Yeah, 0.95, the alpha is 0.025, right? So what I do here, you see my Excel or not?
No.
No, yeah, I come here. So remember, guys, that what I write here is my alpha over 2. Okay. If it's 95, it's 0.025, correct? And then what we do here is norm inverse. The probability, the mean, the standard deviation, and I want cumulative up to that point. Oopsie, what's going on? Oh, here we go. You see? So this is the Excel command, norm inverse. And then if we have 90, so this implies that the tails are 5% each. So this implies that this is 0.05. And then we got the 1.65, 1645.
Oh, so that's
Make sense?
Yeah, I did it
Clear,
again.
guys?
I got my same answer, so I don't.
Okay, good. So let me go back here. So we get the same answer, 1.83. Sorry, 2.83, 3.08.
No, I was saying I got the answer I had before, with 2.87 to 3.12 still.
Oh,
Yeah, same. I got the same thing.
yeah. Let's take a look to what's going on. It's 2.995. You tell me. Let's do this in Excel just to be sure. Okay. So this is going to be 2.995. The first is minus. Oh well. Yeah, we'll do the absolute value of this one.
It should be 1.96.
Yep. Yeah, oh yeah, this, oh wow. What I've done, I deleted this one here. So this is 0.025. Yep, and this is equal to, the lower limit is this one here, minus abs of this number, times 0.00, what was 6?
Just 0.65. Yeah.
Yep. And the other one, well, it's not a smart formula, but in any case. And the other one is simply this plus, right? So this should be our numbers. 2.87, if we round this to 2 decimals. So 2.87, 3.12. Yep, guys.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me see. So 2.87 and 3.12, right? Now, what is interesting, guys, this is the confidence interval for exchange rates, correct? And then what we did is we put this into perspective of the swap. So once you have this type of swap, then you can do an analysis. You can transform this one here in terms of profits. Do you remember that? Okay, so in terms of profits, basically what you do is imagine that you have this graph here, the 5 million euros, for example, and then you are here, and then you want to swap. Remember that?
Yeah.
No, what happens is that, remember, you have this one here is your expected exchange rate. And then what you do, you have three numbers now. You have the lower limit, you have the upper limit, these ones, lower and upper. Agree? Then if you do the analysis, guys, you're going to have, this is in euros. So if you move this in euros, and if you change this into euros, you pay the debt in euros, and then you simply keep the debt in dollars. So as before, what we did is we compare. Okay, I compare this one here with this one here. Do you remember? And then I decide if it's good or bad. Do you remember that, guys? This is what we have been doing in the past. But now you need to do 3 types of analysis. Then first you use the lower limit, 2.87, and then with 2.87, imagine you make you make a profit of 100. Okay, with 2.87. I don't know. I think we have done that, no, the numbers. And then with 3.12, or perhaps this minus 100 and perhaps 50, something like that. So this is your profit intervals. Make sense? And then, guys, what you normally do is you find also the break even. Always a break even. And then what you say is, you know what? When you present this to your people, you tell them, okay, guys, you know what? I'm 95% confident that based on this confidence interval about the exchange rate that come from our research department, we can be making between minus $100 million and $50 million with a 95% confidence. Right? So, and then depends on this one here now. So hopefully that the number that is better for you has the highest probability. But in this case, there is a depreciation here. So you don't like that a lot. there is low probability of an appreciation and high probability of a depreciation. So if you sum, or this one here is depreciation. So that puts your investment at risk. Okay, but if you want to do it at the end of the day, you know how much you're going to make, how much you can lose, and how much you can make. Right? So with that, guys, that's what I want from you for the exam. Really, if you start thinking about this stuff, you know, how the pieces are pieced together, how I can, under my assumptions, this is what should happen. Got it? That's what is crucial for this part of the exam. The last part, guys, of the class is very simple, is hedging, so options. We're gonna do a lot of things with options. It's very cool also. Options are very nice now. Got it? Questions, guys?
So, Professor, so how will what's the format of the exam? I'm not sure if I was able to hear like what the format is and how it's going to work out.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I assume it's going to be a normal 1 hour. I know 1 hour 15 minutes. How long do we have class? How long does our class last? Is 7:30
2 hours,
to,
I think. 9:30.
yeah, kind of 2 hours. Yeah, let's say 1 hour 30 sometimes. Yeah, 1 hour 30. So you're ready, so I can explain you more details about the exam? Okay, so for the exam, guys, what we need to pay attention, so I can stop because it's not part of the class. Oh, sorry. I think, yeah. So